We're halfway there, and everyone is getting involved in the playoff race. Today, we weigh in on who will punch their ticket to the postseason and who will be hitting the links. Will the surging Red Wings and Blue Jackets keep up this pace? Are the Canucks and Bruins seasons slowly slipping away? And finally, in what was a week of warm receptions in the NHL, we give our take on Cutter Gauthier's return to Philly. And welcome back to the BarDown podcast, presented by Crown Royal. Guys, I know I'm no DZ. Tried my best with the intro.
It was very good.
Listen to those pipes.
It was very good.
It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. I hope I can mediate the table as well as he can, because I think the last time I sat with just you two, that was
good time.
Avs Jets, and it got a little out of hand.
We took care of business this past weekend. Not a big deal.
Oh yeah, you guys played against
we did. We did actually.
Yeah, but as we know, it really doesn't matter, because when we see you guys in the playoffs, which might happen.
I don't want to see you guys in the playoffs.
Oh, you think we want to see you, eh? You think we want to see you? The last team I'd want to see in the West right now is probably the Avalanche in the first round.
Well, I think that's fitting because that is exactly what we're going to sit down and predict today. Most teams have hit the 41-game threshold, which means we're at the halfway point in the NHL season. And we're starting to get some clarity, at least maybe in one conference, of how things are going to go. The East, the wild card race in the East, is an absolute logjam. I can't remember the last time there's been so many teams fighting for a playoff spot. And a lot of these teams had slow starts. A lot of these teams have had hot starts and cooled off.
Everyone other than Buffalo is basically in it.
Yeah, he's not even here.
Which is crazy.
We can say these things.
But literally every team other than Buffalo has over 40 points, and the wild card leader right now is just like it's crazy.
And yeah, even like Philly is
Philly's in it still. It's weird.
And the Rangers are like still in it, but like so oddly not that into it either. I don't know. Weird.
How are we going to go about this today? We have each prepared our final standings in each division, along with the two wildcard teams. So I guess we will start in the East. Yeah. We'll go with you, Luca. Your Atlantic, 1, 2, 3. Your Metro, 1, 2, 3. And your two wildcard teams. We'll go around the table, and then we'll discuss.
Okay. Leafs are winning the Atlantic, Panthers in second, and then the Lightning in third. In the Metro, I've got Carolina winning it, with Washington second and New Jersey third. And then my wild card teams are the Sens and the Rangers.
Okay. Jesse?
As much as it pains me to say, I think the Leafs are going to win the Atlantic. And I agree it's going to be Florida at number 2. And I think the Lightning do get that number 3 spot. And then in the Metro, I think Washington's going to win. They're just rolling right now. And then I think Carolina's going to finish second. And I think New Jersey's going to finish third. My wildcard teams are... Give me the Blue Jackets.
Nice.
I love them. I just love them. And you know what? If they can hold their own until Omar's fully healthy, I think the Senators get one of those spots because they were so good with him in net. So that's my top 8 in the East.
Okay. Very, very interesting. I am going to start with the Atlantic. I'm going to say Florida wins it. I know maybe it's a typical Leafs hater pick, but... There's still a lot of time left. I think
there's a whole half
season left. I'm going to say Florida won.
It doesn't even actually. It does matter.
It does matter.
It does matter. It will be nice at least. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Toronto 2, Tampa 3. I think we've all kind of agreed on those 3 teams in the Atlantic. I'm going to say Washington holds on to that 1 spot. It's just crazy the level that they're playing at right now. Carolina in the 2, New Jersey in the 3. Wild card is where it gets very interesting. Man, I really want to put the Montreal Canadiens in there. I'm going to say Ottawa gets the first wild card. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to put Montreal in the 2. They've just been so good down the stretch. I think it's a big ask for them to keep this up. But there's just so... I really wanted to put Columbus as well, but I'm going to go with the Montreal Canadiens.
So the elephant in the room that we're going to get yelled at by hockey fans is Detroit.
Well, nobody thinks the Bruins are making the playoffs over here.
Okay, so that's it. So those are probably our 2 biggest discussion points. You want to start with Detroit?
I think Detroit is a nice place to start because they've been really, really impressive recently. They're on a 7-game win streak right now. Everything's coming together nicely. I don't know if I can trust them to fully keep things up, but I don't think that's an indictment to say they're not going to make the playoffs. Like, you can easily say we're leaving the Rangers out. Montreal might not make it. Columbus, it is truly anyone's game right now.
Well, you also have to think of the direction that a lot of these teams are going to take, right? Like, who's going to be buying? Some of these teams, even though they're still in it, they might actually be selling. Like the Rangers, for example, if you're a Rangers fan and you have all these guys and you're like on the cusp of making the playoffs when you've been so good the past couple of years, you've fallen off of a cliff. Do you really want to be buyers at the deadline? Or do you want to sell? I think the Rangers are probably realizing that it's time to sell. It's time to,
when you say sell,
unpack.
Is it like big names like Zibanejad, like Panarin?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Panarin. But like maybe. We talked about, right, on the last podcast, I think we talked about the idea of getting rid of Panarin. I think if you're a Rangers fan, it's like, okay, we've had this great core. It's clearly not there anymore. Maybe it's time to blow this thing up a little. But it is kind of hard to leave Detroit out in some ways, because when a team is rolling on a 7-game win streak, it's just like, are they going to stop? Are they going to stop? But I just think on paper, Ottawa is a better team when they have Allmark, when they have healthy Allmark. And I don't know, maybe part of me is just cheering for Columbus so much because they're my second favorite squad, and I have so much respect for what they're doing this year. Like I think they've probably been playing above what their roster is. Like they've been playing, for obvious reasons, extremely inspired this year. And I don't know, Columbus has been dialed this year. Like they've been way better than people thought they're going to be.
My biggest thing for Detroit is, so obviously like 8 games ago they were at the bottom of the East, and like we were talking about this team, like what's going on with Stevie Y and this plan, and then they hire Todd McClellan. They're 7-1 since he became the head coach.
So it's kind of that new coach bounce.
But also they've scored 31 goals on this 7-game win streak. 15 of them are power play or empty net goals. They've scored the second most power play goals in the league, the third fewest goals at 5-on-5, second fewest expected goals at 5-on-5. So I'm just like, they're a bit of the Rangers here, where like they are power play merchants at the moment, living off of the power play. How long is that going to last? Because eventually the well is going to run dry, and your goaltending is not great either. And so and it really is like a three-person offense, where it's Larkin, it is Raymond, and it is DeBrincat, and Kane chips in every now and then on the power play. And then beyond that, they are not getting a whole lot from anyone else. So that's where I look at this team and I'm like, I guess if the power play stays as hot as it is and you somehow continue to, like, half your goals over this stretch have been power play or empty net goals, and that's how you're winning. I mean, it's a dicey way to win, and I think be better than some of those wildcard teams. And I think we probably feel a little better about their teams as a whole.
Just to play devil's advocate, though, good teams get it done on the power play, and I'll say as a Jets fan, the Jets power play has been humming this year, and they're one of the best teams in the league. So, yeah, you're right. Like, it is risky when you're relying so much on your power play to score goals, but in the same breath, for sure, that's an important thing to be able to score on the power play. And like, I think also to your point, when you get a new coach, it's not like they're just you're gonna hit a bump. Like you can't just continue this insane streak forever, but you got to feel so encouraged by a Red Wings fan that like once your season felt lost like a few weeks ago, and all of a sudden you're right there, you're right in the thick of it. But again, it's like if Ottawa doesn't make the playoffs here, I think it's just a bit of not good.
I feel like of all the teams we looked at in this logjam, like they're definitely the favorite, the one that I feel like we all expect to make the playoffs. One that going into the season, I feel like it would have been a bit of an eyebrow raise if it was just that they weren't going to make the playoffs, especially considering that they've already fired their head coach, and they got a little bit about that new coach bounce like we talked about, the Boston Bruins, with firing Jim Montgomery. Yep. None of us picked them to make it. How are we feeling about that?
They're reeling. They've also played 3 more games than all the other teams all these below teams them. Yeah. They've been losing
easily
games.
Past them. Yeah, with all the games in hand that they've had. I feel like we've definitely seen them at this point now where if Pasternak's not scoring, they're really, really struggling for goals. Yeah. And they're a team as well. I remember when we did that trade episode, and this was months ago, the struggles kind of just started, and I said, go out and get a top-line forward. I feel like if they're still in this point at the deadline, they're probably not going to be in the position where they're being aggressive and trying to add someone when they're out of the playoff picture.
It's interesting because like that team is always so aggressive, and like even the offseason moves this year, like Zadorov and Lindholm were 2 massive swings for them to bring in, and
lots of money.
I can't imagine them not being aggressive if they're like in and around the playoff picture. But you're right, like who who do you bring in? And you have so much money tied up already into this group. The point drop off from like Pasta and Marchand even to the next guys after that is like a gap of almost 20.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're not getting what they wanted from Lindholm. Zaka has not been producing. So it's weird because I don't want to doubt them. Like, I think they made us look a little, or me specifically, because like I've doubted them most of the year. But then they fired Montgomery. They got the bump from Sacco, and I think they played a little bit better. But honestly, and it's weird, I feel more confident in like the Rangers' top end talent figuring something out, because Shesterkin's the best goalie in the world, and their talent as a collective, at least I can look at their forwards and be like, okay, like Zibanejad, Fox, Kreider, Laugh, like I feel better about this collection of guys than maybe I do with the Bruins where it's just Pasta.
Could you imagine if the Leafs, as the number one, as the winners of the Atlantic, had to play against the Bruins in the first round?
Oh my god!
Oh, get your popcorn ready.
It really just seems like it's lining up for like the Leafs to play the Lightning again, or the Bruins, or the Habs. Like 3 just playoff nightmares for them.
Or even the Senators.
Never mind. Like you're the number 1 seed in the East, and your reward is the President's Trophy winning Rangers from a year ago.
Not a team I would want to face.
The only
if they
reason
get in.
I left the Rangers out, I agree with you. I feel like on paper they're clearly the most talented team. They're the team with the most veterans. They're the team that you want to trust the most down the stretch, especially once you hit April and those games mean so much. And there's just the smallest of margins that are separating all these teams. It's just the noise that has surrounded this organization all year long, starting with the GM, just pretty much putting everyone for sale, trading your captain. Now we have this lingering rumor of like Zibanejad for JT Miller was on the table at one point, and I don't know. It starts to feel like a lost season. But then you raise the point of Detroit, where 2 weeks ago we felt like everything was over. You rip off 7 in a row, and everything changes. So
I was gonna say the Rangers have won a few in a row here. Like they've been playing a bit better recently. I don't know.
Still lots of time left. The one team I want to bring up quickly before we move on to the West, just because they're level on 44 points with the Red Wings, with the Habs, with they're a little ahead of the Rangers. They're just behind the Senators. The Pittsburgh Penguins. They always seem to find a way to stay around. Remember last year, they made some puzzling moves at the trade deadline. We were not a fan of them, and they ended up being in it to the very end. Is there a chance you still think that this team has some life?
The way Crosby's been playing, you probably have some life. But I just don't know if I can trust them enough based on just the past couple of years of them, like you said, loading up and making some interesting moves deadline-wise and then just kind of falling short. It just seems like they're squandering this little window that they have, because for as puzzling as all the moves have been, they're still in the playoff race, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Like they're still hanging around and ripping off some wins and being like, yeah, we're still here. Like we're here. But it makes you wonder if they were managed a little better, if some of these moves they just didn't make that reeked of desperation a little bit. That like where would they be instead of that? Would they be fighting for a division spot with the Devils, and or would they be comfortably in a wild card spot? It's just never comfortable with them, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think I made my thoughts about the Pittsburgh Penguins quite clear on this podcast several times, and I'm just gonna say this. Did I explain the story, by the way, of how I met Kyle Dubas?
No.
Did I not tell you guys a story? Okay, let me explain after this quickly, because it has to do with the hat that I'm wearing right now, kind of. So I'm just gonna say this: Kyle Dubas might have the hardest job in the NHL right now, and one of them for sure. I don't know what Penguins fans are expecting of Kyle Dubas right now. I don't know what anyone is expecting of him. Like, I feel like he just walked into maybe the most awkward situation in the league. You have Crosby, you have all these older guys. It's like people don't want to trade any of them. They want to squeeze out these last couple of years, but they just want to get all of these great players to complement them. But that's just not going to happen because they have money tied into all these players already. They haven't been able to draft very well because they were such a competitive team for a long time. Like, it's just weird. Although I will say this, Rickard Rakell, you know how many goals he has this year?
Yeah, he's
22.
Yeah,
22 goals this year for Rickard
lighting
Rakell.
it up.
Talk about a good trade piece. Just saying. So anyways, let me just very quickly explain how I met Kyle Dubas. So I was at the World Juniors and I see Kyle Dubas in the lobby and I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll go introduce myself. So I go to shake his hand and he says to me, big game on Sunday. This was like a few weeks ago. So I'm like, what? And then he goes, yeah, big game on Sunday. Like as if I should know exactly what he's talking about. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the Jets played the Penguins twice already and beat them both times, for the record. But I said, I figured out that. I said, do the Jets play the Penguins next week? He goes, no, your hat. I was wearing a Vikings hat. And I take my hat. I'm like, oh. He goes, man, I'm a huge Lions fan. Grew up in Sault Ste. Marie. Huge Detroit Lions fan.
Wow.
And we're just talking. He said, yeah, like, I don't know, Kyle, to be honest with you. Like, Lions defense hasn't been great lately. And he's like, well, we're injured. We're injured, okay? We've had a lot of injuries, but I still think we're going to be fine. There's a huge game. Lions have looked great this year. And I was holding my hat the whole time. And then all of a sudden he stops and goes, you know you can put your hat back on, right? Like, you don't have to keep your hat off the entire time that we talk about this. Like, wear your Vikings hat, man. And I'm like, oh, my God.
And you're still wearing that Vikings hat, even though
No, I was wearing a cap. And then I put the hat back on, and I walked away. I was like, I felt like kind of an idiot after. But whatever. He was a beauty. And then I talked to Jason Spezza, talked about the time that we gave him a pair of Nike Air Monarchs. He's such a beauty. He's got that cheeky smile and that laugh, and it was great. Good times with the World Jays.
Good times for the Vikings too, right? You know you can put your hat back on.
Minnesota fans are raging. Last week they were mad at me because apparently I didn't give them enough credit, and now Vikings tough to be a Minnesota fan right now.
Speaking of Minnesota, let's move on to the West. Luca, we'll go back to you to start off. Your playoff teams.
The Central was honestly the toughest to predict because all 4 teams right now are just like in their last 10, they all have like 7 wins at the least. Like it's so tough. Here's where I went. I went Dallas winning. I went Winnipeg at the 2, Colorado at the 3. Although I didn't feel great about that, honestly. Pacific, I've got the Oilers winning it with Vegas in 2nd and LA in 3rd. And then wild card, I've got the Wild in the 1st spot and the Canucks in the 2nd spot.
Not escaping those, not giving enough credit to Minnesota.
Nope, not escaping it, but I mean, like, literally days after, the Avs on a 2nd game of a back-to-back just went in there and won 6-1, so I don't know what else you need to see, Wild fans.
All right, Jesse, your Western playoff teams.
The Jets winning the Central.
Wow, okay.
You know what? It's time. We'll get into that.
Maybe you'll see Colorado as the wild card too in the first round. Continue.
I don't want that.
It's okay. Continue.
I don't want that at all. I'll probably go Dallas in 2nd because I think they're just gonna find a way. And it's hard. It's hard for me to imagine Colorado not finishing in the top 3 spots. I guess I'll do the same.
You guys are wild haters, man.
I'm not a Wild hater. I actually really like the Minnesota Wild. You know what? Fine. I'll leave Minnesota.
Don't let me change your answer.
No. Because I know the way the universe is gonna work. I know how things are going to go. We're going to end up playing Colorado. It's going to happen. I'm not saying because I just think this is how the universe is going to work. So I'll stick Colorado in that wild card 1 spot. And I'm going to be absolutely devastated because this is exactly what happened. Oh, no. This is not what happened last year.
No.
Last year,
Dallas won the division last year, yeah.
So give me Minnesota at the number 3, Colorado in the 1st wild card spot. We're going to play Colorado. I'm going to feel terrible about it. Like terrible about it. Give me Vegas, Edmonton, and LA. Yeah, Colorado in the 1st wildcard spot. And you know what? I feel like Vancouver's going to find a way.
Alrighty, my Western playoff teams. I got Dallas winning the Central.
Just doubt us.
No, there's a lot of time left. Still close. I got 2 games in hand on you right now. I got Winnipeg in the 2. I got Minnesota in the 3. So, congratulations, Jesse. You avoided the Colorado Avalanche in the first round.
I don't feel good about playing Minnesota either.
Well,
for the record, Rod fans, lots of respect there.
Huge Minnesota guy over here.
Well, I'm just saying. Like,
showed up to the podcast in full Vikings gear 12 hours after they got bounced in the wild card round.
No one can say that I don't respect the Minnesota Wild because I have time and time again on this podcast professed my love for Bill Guerin. I love him. He's my boy. Billy Guarantee, and I legitimately think he might be the best general manager in the league.
All right,
I'm just saying.
The rest of my playoff teams, I got Edmonton winning the Pacific, similar to Luca, and Vegas and LA 2-3. A lot of that is just because I feel real bad for these LA Kings and don't want them to have to see the Oilers again in the first round. And
I'm sick and tired of this playoff format.
The format's
1 to 8
getting out of
Bring it back.
Brutal.
Bring it back.
It's just brutal.
And then I really wanted to pick someone else in the wild card. I got obviously Colorado in the 1. I went with Vancouver in the 2. To me, yes, it's been a very frustrating season. They've been terrible at home. The fact that through 41 games, they've lost more games than they've won. If you told me that a year ago, especially with Demko coming back, I just felt like that would have been crazy. The noise around Pettersson, around Miller has been a huge distraction. Clearly things aren't working there, but you just have to think with 40 games left, they're going to figure this out.
They're oddly kind of a similar team to the Rangers.
Yeah.
The Canucks, hey?
Yeah, very, very similar as far as just the outside noise right now, the trade rumors, which is ironic because, like, JT Miller and Zibanejad, as we mentioned before, like, that was the rumored deal. So, yeah, and then, like, goaltending, you trust your goalie. But, like, yeah, it's just weird vibes. Like, what the hell is going on in both of these places?
Yeah, and I guess the Rangers, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they seem like a bit of an older team than the Canucks as well. I feel like the Canucks are
I
a
would
little
say
younger.
that. I would think that's fair.
But I don't know. And you know what? Looking back on it in the East, it's like maybe we didn't give the Rangers enough credit. I just feel like Vancouver, I feel like there have still been some positive signs from the Canucks this year, whereas like there's not been a lot of positive signs from the Rangers this year.
In fairness to us leaving out the Rangers, actually, I think Luca had the Rangers in, but you and I left them out, and us all picking the Canucks, the West is far more forgiving than the Eastern Conference this year. Like, we talked about 7 teams that are a point out of the playoffs in the East. If you look at the West, Vancouver's 1 point out. After that, like, sure, St. Louis is 5 points out. They played 2 more games in Calgary.
Yeah.
Utah's level with Calgary on games played, they're 6 points out. And after that, Anaheim, Seattle, Nashville. These are all teams that we're talking about are going to be picking in the top 5 in the NHL draft this year. Like, the wild card race in the West is just far, far less competitive. And I think if you're a Canucks fan, that's the one sort of sign where it's like we're competing with Calgary right now.
Mm-hmm.
Where did we see Calgary going into the season as one of the potentially worst teams in the NHL?
Yeah,
and they've done very, very well for themselves.
They deserve a lot of credit.
They do deserve a lot of credit, but I just
sure.
think, 40 games left, you're going to pick the team that we all hoped would be a cup contender this year, and that's the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, completely agree. It sucks that the West isn't more dramatic. Like, we could talk about a lot more teams when we talked about the East, and I think, like, the drama probably comes from the Central mostly of, like, who's going to play who out of those 4 teams and what matchups we're going to get, who's going to end up winning the division. Because at this point, like, I really don't know. Like, we both had Dallas, you had Winnipeg. I understand why you'd have Winnipeg. And, like, Dallas.
Because I'm a homer.
Well, not even that. Like, I would think that Dallas has had such a weird year where, like, you look at the production they've gotten from their star players and no one's really, like, had a point per game now. It's been – but they have a ton of guys that have, like, 20 or more points. And so they're really getting a lot of contributions, but no one has taken that step as, like – and I think we all thought that Wyatt might take that step as being better than a point per game guy. Jason Robertson has not reached the heights of that 100-point campaign that he had a couple years back. So but they're still really, really good. And, like, I believe in that collection of talent still, and their depth is really good.
Good defensive team, too.
It's just
Sure.
that's
you can
exactly
argue
it.
that, like, Winnipeg's got the best goalie in the NHL right now. They've proven it as far, like, their stars are playing better than Dallas's stars right now. And then the Wild, I know Wild fans will make that argument. And, like, if Colorado rattled off 7 in a row to get, like, within 3 points of the division lead, I also wouldn't be surprised. So it's really just a loaded division. And I feel bad for all 4 teams that they're going to have to face each other in the first round.
All right, just before we get into the Don't Think, Just Tweet, if you're watching this, you may notice that it is on the brand new BarDown channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video. It helps us out a lot. And also, let us know in the comments. We read them every week. We review them on the podcast. So let us know who you think will make up the NHL playoffs this year.
And you know what? Also, you guys want more videos like us playing against a bunch of 10-year-olds? Or get Bruce freaking Boudreaux to coach us? Keep liking these videos and keep the subbies up. And
Yeah. We've been on a bit of a heater recently. We've got another great video coming out. I guess if people are watching this on Wednesday when this comes out, coming out on Thursday, you'll want to watch that one.
But that brings us to Don't Think, Just Tweet. And after reading the comments last week, we might have to start to impose a character count in these. But I'm going to start with you, Jesse.
That's fair.
After absolutely hearing it from Flyers fans in his first NHL game in Philadelphia, how do you feel about the Cutter Gauthier trade around 12 months since it's happened?
I feel like the Anaheim Ducks still won the trade. I mean, nothing against Jamie Drysdale. I think Drysdale could be a good player for sure. They're also both still pretty young. And like they're high picks, right? But I think Cutter Gauthier has star potential if he can kind of put it all together. He has he was most valuable player at the World Juniors. He's proven goal scorer in college. He's on a not very good Ducks team right now that has some figuring out to do. And I think he's going to be a very, very good player for the Ducks once they kind of put everything together. This is not part of the tweet, by the way. I said the part of the tweet earlier.
Okay.
These are not characters that I'm saying. I'm just explaining my tweet. But also, like, am I a fan about how everything went down? Not particularly, especially given what happened to the Jets very shortly after this whole thing happened. Yeah, I don't feel good about the way it happened, but as far as like who I think did well in the trade, I think the Ducks did really well.
And what'd you make of the reception from the crowd? I don't know if you heard Torts. Yeah. I don't know if you heard Konechny.
No,
pretty spicy.
Did Torts really say anything?
No, Torts actually downplayed.
He was the
least.
least
Like, I don't give a
spicy.
shit
He was
about the
surprised.
kid.
Yeah.
No, I think Cutter Gauthier deserves every bit of criticism that he's gotten for how he handled things. 100%. I think that he should be booed. I really liked seeing Konechny being like, yeah, I'll beat the shit out of you if we fight. Like, good. Like, that's kind of like what Philly's all about, right? It's like, Philly's got bite. That's why I love Konechny so much. He's such a little rat. Like, if Gauthier does get traded at some point, Konechny's the next captain of that team. Like, no question, especially given the contract he just signed. He's a little rat. And, yeah, Gauthier deserves to hear it all. Like, just the way – I don't know the details about everything, right? No one actually knows what really happened between Cutter Gauthier and Philly. But seeing players work their way out, like the way Gauthier did on the surface, of course fans should be booing him. And honestly, it seems like Cutter kind of embraces that. He didn't seem like he had that much of an issue with the Flyers fans booing him, did he? Even though they got absolutely worked 6-0.
He'll only play there once a year for the rest of his career.
Yeah,
so.
And he will hear it.
I was gonna say, is this gonna be like this is never gonna stop? It's not like this was their one thing. He will, if he's a 12-year vet in the league and this happened so long ago, and Philly wins 4 cups in that span, they're still gonna boo this guy. It's just the way they operate.
That's just who Flyers fans are. But honestly, from like everything on the surface that we've seen, he deserves to get booed. Team drafts you, you play for that team. And like, if you're just gonna force your way out as like a year after you got drafted, yeah, you are gonna hear it.
He seemed like it didn't faze him too much. The next night, 2 goals against the Hurricanes, one a game winner in overtime. So
he knew what he was getting himself into, and it doesn't seem like he cares that much. So like, win-win for both sides.
All right, Luca. After Denver broke the U.S. PWHL attendance record in the middle of a Broncos playoff game.
Yeah.
There were several "we want a team" chants from the crowd. What should we see in the league's next wave of expansion?
Hey, bring a team to Denver. Bring them home. I mean, that's not my home, but bring them home to Denver.
It's your sports rooting
it's my sports home.
Yeah.
I know, as a Broncos fan too. I mean, the context of that is very important to be like, they sold out during a Denver Broncos
14,000 people
playoff game at the same time that it was happening. So that's very important context. Give one to Denver, and let's give one to Vancouver, too. I mean, those are 2 stops on this takeover tour that we've seen that have been incredible sellouts, record-breaking crowds. I'm not going to – it's not like throwing shade at Seattle, not to say Seattle, because that was also one of the stops, but it's such a smart idea by the league that they have gone – and they did it last year with some NHL rinks, but doing it again and – hearing the energy and the passion from all those fans and seeing these record-breaking crowds, it's got to make you feel good about potentially expanding to any of these cities, quite honestly. So, like, wherever they've strategically done this, these cities that they're playing in are not by accident, I'm sure, because when expansion talks come, I'm sure these are going to be the cities that are first in line that want to put their name in to get a PWHL team, and well-deserved, hopefully.
Yeah, it's great to see the game growing, and especially when you enter a venue like that and it's a packed house. It's amazing.
And you know what? Like, some cities can realistically support professional sports teams, and some can't. And like, Colorado is such a great city.
It is.
Yeah, it's such a great sports city, and it's amazing. It's amazing to see that the PWHL drew such a huge crowd. Was this game? Pardon me, because I believe I was on vacation when this game happened. Was this at what's the name of the new Avalanche?
It was that Ball Arena. Yeah. Nice. They played. Kale was there. They showed him on the jumbotron watching. Like, it was just a great game.
Hey, that's wicked too. Kill could have gone to the Broncos game, but he didn't. So that's
Well, it was in Buffalo.
oh.
I mean, he could have if he wanted.
He still could have gone. For sure. Oh God.
All right.
Anyways,
I'm going to throw one more out there, and both of you feel free to answer this because this will be a quick one. Not sure if you guys have seen Connor Hellebuyck's statistics through 34 games.
they're nice.
Compared with Carey Price's statistics through his 34 games in the season that he won both
Hart.
the Vezina and the Hart Trophy. What is it going to take for Connor Hellebuyck to win the Hart Trophy this year? Or should he already be the front runner?
If the Jets find a way to win the President's Trophy, I don't know how you don't give it to him.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. If the stats are like similar and there's not like a massive drop off by any means, and they win I would even say if they win their division and are the best team in the West,
Especially with how competitive the Central is right now. We
Agreed.
just
Like,
spent time talking about it.
like McKinnon last year, I think it was one of those things where obviously like the Avs, if the Avs are a wild card team, even if he's the leading scorer, it doesn't matter. Like Kucherov is putting up a ton of points, that's fine. Like Leon is as well.
But is that voters fatigue where like we've seen Kucherov win one, we've seen Draisaitl win one, McKinnon got one last year, which everyone felt like get him one because he hasn't won it yet.
100%. I think that probably plays into Hellebuyck's case even more. Again, if there's no drop off, they win the Central. I don't even think they have to win the President's Trophy. I think if they win the Central, I'd give it to him.
Yeah. Hey. Don't have to tell me.
That's the reply tweet.
That's the quote. Yeah, the quote tweet. Yeah, I respect that.
All right. Nice to see great moment from you guys there, agreeing on something.
I know, but then we're gonna play them in the first round of the playoffs.
And then
where's our Hart player?
And I'll have to sit in between you guys again.
Yeah.
All right. No, not again, please, not again. That deserves a crown. Luca, what do you have for us this week?
I've got an NHL debut from Calgary Flames, 6th round draft pick, Rory Cairns. 2 assists in his debut. Gotta love the setup. I mean, that's what we're all about. And he grew up as a Flames fan. They've shared a great throwback picture of him rocking a Flames jersey as a kid. From Caledon, Ontario. Yeah. Home of Thomas Pasternak for a bit.
No, yeah, for a couple of years. Yeah, I lived in Bolton until I was like 5. So yes,
my cousins,
Caledon, Bolton.
Cousins grew up in Caledon too.
Yeah, great place.
Great place. Hometown of Rory. But yeah, 2 assists in your NHL debut. Just dishing it to your teammates to keep the Flames in the wild card race, and just a feel good story from a guy that was a Flames fan growing up.
Now holds the record for most points per game in NHL history as well with 2.
That's pretty elite. I think he should retire. Yeah. That deserves a crown.
That deserves a crown. There you go.
Number in the rafters.
Yeah,
for sure.
Attaboy Rory. All right.
Stick his number in the rafters.
It's done.
And we close with the goal of the week. Now,
here we go.
Do we trust this guy?
We mentioned it earlier.
He's not here, so I think this guy went off the rails.
Z is not here. He usually tries to keep me in check with these, or he likes to criticize my goals. You guys like to criticize my goals too.
Also, are you wearing a bathrobe right now?
It's a cardigan.
I'm just kidding. It's very nice. It's very nice. You look cozy.
I didn't know the dress code was eliminated playoff teams on the podcast today.
Yeah, I was wondering why you didn't wear your Dolphins jersey last podcast.
We didn't even make the playoffs.
I could have worn my Broncos, and we all would have been in the same boat here.
All right. Goal of the week.
You look very nice, Broncos.
Thank you. Thank you. You can put your hat back on, right?
It is on. My head's actually too warm right now. Okay, go on.
You can take it off as well. I did go a little rogue this week. You can please put your hat back on, please.
Please, your hair is looking terrible. Please.
First time I did not choose an NHL goal, and it's just because I do feel like this goal was just too nice to pass up on, and we're once again heading back to the PWHL. Ooh. MPP scoring from the ice.
This was nuts.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to break down in this clip. Like, I mean, she starts the entire play, but she's literally falling backwards.
Yeah.
And still has the strength to wire a shot top corner.
Wasn't like an empty net, nothing. No. Like, she just beat the goalie from her knees.
Falling backwards.
Picked the corner.
All of your momentum is going the opposite way.
Oh, what a shot.
She picks the corner. That is insanely difficult.
The precision.
Yeah. And that was her first goal. I mean, in Vancouver, I think they were saying, like, since at
Olympics?
Rogers Arena since like the Olympics.
Wow.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
did not
I
know
think.
that.
Don't
Yeah.
quote me on that, but I feel like I saw people saying that, which like makes a ton of sense. But yeah, I mean, for you to go rogue and pick this one, I applaud the choice of you going rogue and picking this
Well,
one.
I'm going even more rogue for our second one.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
And it's definitely not the PWHL because we got a beer league goal. And it's from Jesse's boy, Winnipeg's very own CFL legend, Andrew Harris.
And referee.
And
Andrew
referee.
Harris.
is a beer league
ASHL referee.
Yeah.
One of the best running backs in
So,
CFL history.
I saw this. Was this a beer league game or like I don't know the team that he plays for.
I mean, we spoke with him before, and he told us that he plays beer league
He
hockey
plays
all
beer
summer.
league, but I don't know if this was. It's the Tilsonburg Thunder.
Oh, so this is in Ontario.
Yeah, the Western Ontario Super Hockey League. Yeah.
Let's take a look at the goal because it's an absolute.
And for those that don't know, like Andrew Harris, really good at hockey.
Yeah.
Really
Well,
good
he's
at
even
hockey.
better at football, but
Oak Park Raiders.
pretty good at hockey too.
Look
at
at
this.
this move.
Oh.
Very similar goal to MVP's. In
Yeah,
the sense that, like,
falling.
falling.
But it's also
But he
like
took a knee.
there's no more of a I play running back in the
Yeah.
CFL goal than that because he's just embracing contact, refusing to go down, and then just wires it past the
Nasty.
goallie.
I love how he
Short side
I love how
too.
he rocks 33.
33,
in
yeah.
hockey, so,
He wears
Yeah.
the same numbers he
Wears
wears in
the same
football.
number.
yeah.
We got to get this guy out
That
to
was his
to a
first
bar
two
down
goals
team.
I think he scored on the day as well.
Guy's machine.
I'm gonna go MPP. I think it's what goal is winning again?
Manjapan is last week, the through the legs
Yeah.
around
that
the
was really
defender.
nice.
It was
That was
really
nice.
nice.
That was really nice.
I'd take MPPs over that.
I think I kind of would too.
I would too.
I think
The
I'd
shot
take
was-
Andrew Harris is over that. I think both of these
No.
contenders are
I
better.
would take the Manjapan.
The shot from the MVP one was just so nice.
It was
Like,
nice.
She just picked the corner.
Yeah,
bang.
very impressive.
All right.
If
We got a
Andrew
new goal of
Harris,
the week.
if Andrew Harris does want to play for the BarDown team, though, the offer is out there.
Yeah.
And if you say yes, I will move your goal to number one
I think,
on the goal.
we can make that happen.
We can make it
If
happen.
he wants to play for the BarDown team, offers out as well.
If Andrew Manjapani wants to play for the BarDown team,
If
the offer is
anyone
also.
wants to play for the BarDown team that has professional hockey experience of some kind, the offer is open. We are on a heater right now. We've lost like 2 games this year.
Yeah.
We had, and one of them I played in net, so it doesn't really count.
So that doesn't really count.
We had Bruce Boudreau coach us.
Bruce
and
got the Bruce got the W?
Bruce
Oh, yeah.
absolutely
Yeah,
got the W.
That's
That's
right,
W.
that's
Yeah,
right, that's right.
we won.
That's right.
We won.
And we really had a chance to potentially be managed by Kyle Dubas as our GM until Jesse absolutely blew it by taking his hat off.
Walking into another tough situation with the BarDown team. Like, where does he go? You know?
He goes in the rafters.
I
And he
guess
just
so.
watches from above, from the bar.
I guess
I
so.
would
from the
love
Wild
him
Wings.
to. I would love him to scout us. I know we've.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say the idea because like we've talked about trying to get a scout out to our games as one of our videos, similar to the Bruce Boudreau idea, and it just hasn't worked out yet. But I think that would be very fun.
And that's going to do it for another week of the Bar Down podcast. We thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Don't forget, like and subscribe on the new Bar Down channel. And we'll see you next week. Jesse will be wearing a new NFL jersey from a team that was just eliminated.
The Bills.
I was thinking the same thing.
Go
Wow.
Ravens, baby! Lamar's the real MVP.
I actually do have a Josh Allen Bills jersey too, so